Have you ever had a moment when everything seemed perfect, only to have it all come crashing down with a single revelation? That's exactly what happened to Mark Collins, a devoted single father whose search for love took an unexpected turn. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories that remind us of the complex beauty of human connections. Mark Collins stood in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the third time. At 42, he felt ridiculous being nervous about a date, but it had been nearly 5 years since his last serious relationship. 5 years of focusing solely on raising his daughter Emma after her mother walked out when she was just 7 years old. "Dad, you look fine," Emma said, leaning against the doorframe. At 12, she had a wisdom beyond her years, her dark curls framing a face that looked more like her mother's every day. "Stop fidgeting." "I'm not fidgeting," Mark protested, even as his fingers betrayed him by reaching for the tie again. Emma rolled her eyes. "You've been on exactly 3 dates since Mom left, and you canceled 2 of them at the last minute. You need this." Mark turned to face his daughter, amazed at how their roles seemed to reverse sometimes. "When did you become the parent in this relationship?" "Someone has to be the adult," she quipped with a smile. "Now go. Sarah sounds nice, and you deserve to be happy." Mark had met Sarah Winters through a mutual friend at work. She was a pediatric nurse, divorced, no children. Their coffee meetup had turned into a 3-hour conversation that felt like minutes, and tonight was their official first date. "You have my number," Mark reminded Emma as he grabbed his keys. "Mrs. Peterson is next door if you need anything. I'll be home by 10, Emma finished for him. "I know the drill. I'm 12, not 5. Mark kissed the top of her head. "Love you, kiddo." "Love you too. Now go." The restaurant Sarah had suggested was an intimate Italian place downtown. When Mark arrived, she was already seated, her blonde hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes, and when she smiled at him, Mark felt a flutter in his chest that he hadn't experienced in years. "You look beautiful," he said as he sat down. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied with a warm smile. Conversation flowed easily between them. Sarah told stories about her work at the children's hospital that made him laugh and occasionally brought tears to his eyes. Mark shared anecdotes about Emma's latest science project and his struggles with middle school math homework. "She sounds amazing," Sarah said. "You've done a wonderful job raising her on your own." "Some days I feel like she's raising me," Mark admitted. "But she's the best thing in my life." As they shared tiramisu for dessert, Mark found himself opening up about things he rarely discussed, his fears about being both mother and father to Emma, the loneliness that sometimes crept in after Emma went to bed, his hopes for the future. "I'd love to meet her someday," Sarah said, reaching across the table to take his hand. "I'd like that too," Mark replied, surprised at how much he meant it. Usually, he kept his dating life completely separate from Emma, afraid of introducing someone who might disappear. But something about Sarah felt different. When he walked her to her car, the goodnight kiss felt like a beginning rather than an ending. For the first time in years, Mark drove home feeling hopeful. Over the next few weeks, Mark and Sarah fell into an easy rhythm. Dinner dates, weekend hikes, long phone conversations after Emma went to bed. Sarah was patient, never pushing to meet Emma until Mark was ready. A month into their relationship, Mark finally decided it was time. He invited Sarah over for a casual dinner at home, warning her that Emma could be protective and might take time to warm up. "No pressure," he assured her. "If it doesn't go well, we'll try again another time." Sarah arrived with a small gift for Emma, a book about women in science that showed she'd been paying attention when Mark talked about his daughter's interests. To Mark's relief, Emma and Sarah hit it off immediately. They bonded over a shared love of bad puns and true crime podcasts, an interest Mark couldn't understand. After dinner, the three of them played board games, and Mark found himself watching the two of them laugh together, a warmth spreading through his chest. When Emma went upstairs to finish homework, Sarah helped Mark clean up in the kitchen. "She's even more wonderful than you described," Sarah said, drying a plate he handed her. "She liked you," Mark replied. "That's rare. She usually gives my dates the third degree." "So there have been many dates?" Sarah teased. Mark laughed. "Hardly. You're the first woman I've introduced to Emma since her mother left." Sarah set down the towel and turned to face him. "Thank you for trusting me with that." When he kissed her goodbye that night, Mark realized he was falling in love. The next few months were the happiest Mark had experienced in years. Sarah became a regular presence in their home. She helped Emma with science projects, joined them for movie nights, even attended Emma's soccer games. For the first time since becoming a single parent, Mark felt like he wasn't carrying the weight alone. "You seem different," his sister Jen commented during their monthly lunch. "Happier." "I am," Mark admitted. "Sarah's amazing. Emma adores her. It feels like we could be a family." Jen squeezed his hand. "I'm so happy for you, Mark. You deserve this." By their 6-month anniversary, Mark was certain. He bought a ring, nothing flashy, but elegant and timeless, like Sarah herself. He planned a weekend getaway, asking Jen to watch Emma. He would propose at the small bed and breakfast where they'd spent their third date. The night before their trip, Mark was packing when Emma appeared in his doorway. "Can I talk to you about something?" she asked, her expression serious. Mark patted the bed beside him. "Always." Emma sat down, fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve. "It's about Sarah." Mark's heart sank. Had he misread the situation? "I thought you liked her." "I do," Emma said quickly. "She's great. It's just, I found something weird." Mark frowned. "What do you mean?" Emma pulled out her phone. "Remember when Sarah helped me with my history project last week? She used my laptop, and she must have logged into her email. When I opened my computer later, it was still signed in." Mark felt a flicker of unease. "Emma, you shouldn't have read her emails. That's private." "I didn't mean to," Emma protested. "But a notification popped up with Mom's name in it, and I got confused." Mark went still. "What?" Emma handed him her phone, open to a screenshot. "Sarah's been emailing Mom. 4 months." Mark stared at the screen, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. There it was, an email thread between Sarah and his ex-wife, Diane. The most recent message was from Sarah, "Meeting with him tomorrow. We'll update you after." With shaking hands, Mark scrolled through the conversation. Phrases jumped out at him, "He still doesn't suspect anything. Emma is exactly as you described. The plan is working perfectly. Dad?" Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. "What does it mean?" Mark couldn't answer. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of the betrayal unfolding before him. The woman he'd fallen in love with, who he'd been about to propose to, had been reporting back to his ex-wife all along. "I need to make a call," he managed to say, his voice hollow. In his study, with the door closed, Mark called Sarah. Each ring felt like an eternity. "Hey, you," she answered, her voice warm and familiar. "All packed for tomorrow?" "We need to talk," Mark said flatly. "Now." There was a pause. "Mark? What's wrong?" "I know about you and Diane," he said. "Emma found your emails." The silence that followed told him everything he needed to know. "I can explain," Sarah finally said, her voice small. "I'll be at your place in 20 minutes, Mark replied, then hung up. The drive to Sarah's apartment was a blur. Mark's mind cycled through every moment they'd shared, now tainted by the knowledge that none of it had been real. Had she ever cared for him at all? Or was he just a means to an end? Sarah was waiting at the door when he arrived, her eyes red-rimmed. She led him to the living room where they'd spent countless evenings together, now feeling like a stage set rather than a home. "I'm so sorry," she began. "Just tell me why," Mark interrupted. "Was any of it real?" Sarah sank onto the couch. "Diane contacted me about 8 months ago. We knew each other from nursing school, though we weren't close. She said she wanted to reconnect with Emma but was afraid you wouldn't allow it. She asked if I would help, get to know you, see if Emma was happy, maybe eventually facilitate a reunion." Mark felt sick. So our entire relationship was a setup? At first, Sarah admitted, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But Mark, somewhere along the way, it became real for me. I fell in love with you. With Emma. I stopped reporting details to Diane weeks ago. I was going to tell you everything after our trip. Why should I believe anything you say now?" Mark asked, his voice breaking. "Because I was going to show you these," Sarah said, reaching for her phone. She pulled up a series of messages to Diane. "I can't do this anymore. What we're doing is wrong. Mark and Emma deserve better. I'm telling him everything after our anniversary." Mark stared at the screen, wanting desperately to believe her but afraid to trust again. "Diane hasn't been in Emma's life for 5 years," he said. "She walked out on us. Why the sudden interest?" Sarah hesitated. "She's sick, Mark. Cancer. The prognosis isn't good. She wanted to make amends before." Mark closed his eyes, overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. Anger at the deception. Sympathy for Diane's situation. Confusion about his feelings for Sarah. "I need time," he finally said, standing up. "I need to think about what's best for Emma." "I understand," Sarah whispered. "For what it's worth, I really do love you both." Mark drove home in silence, the ring box heavy in his pocket. When he arrived, Emma was waiting up, her face anxious. "Is it true?" she asked. "Has Mom been spying on us?" Mark sat beside her, putting his arm around her shoulders. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Your mom she's not well. She wanted to know how you were doing. Why didn't she just call me?" Emma asked, her voice small. "I don't know," Mark answered honestly. "Adults make mistakes too. Big ones sometimes." "What about Sarah? Was she just pretending to like us?" Mark thought about the look in Sarah's eyes when she showed him those final messages to Diane. "I think she started out with one intention and ended up somewhere else." "Do you still love her?" Emma asked. "I don't know," Mark admitted. "Right now, I'm just trying to figure out what's best for us." The next few weeks were a blur of difficult conversations. Mark agreed to meet with Diane, seeing for himself how the vibrant woman he'd once loved had been hollowed out by illness. Despite his anger, he couldn't deny Emma the chance to reconnect with her mother while there was still time. As for Sarah, Mark kept his distance, needing space to sort through his feelings. She respected his boundaries, sending only a single message: "When you're ready to talk, if you're ever ready, I'll be here." 3 months later, they sat across from each other in the same coffee shop where they'd first met. "Emma asks about you," Mark said after an awkward silence. "I miss her," Sarah replied. "I miss you both." "I've been thinking a lot about trust," Mark said slowly. "About forgiveness. About second chances." "And?" Sarah asked, hope flickering in her eyes. "And I'm not there yet," Mark admitted. "But I'm trying to get there." Sarah nodded, blinking back tears. "That's more than I deserve." "The thing is," Mark continued, "life is complicated. People make mistakes for complicated reasons. What you did was wrong, but your intentions, they became something better along the way." "They did," Sarah agreed. Loving you and Emma is the most real thing I've ever felt. Mark took a deep breath. Emma's birthday is next weekend. Small gathering, just family. She asked if you could come. Sarah's eyes widened. Really? It's a start, Mark said. I can't promise where it leads, but it's a start. When Sarah arrived at Emma's birthday party, the initial awkwardness soon gave way to cautious warmth. Watching Emma blow out her candles, with Sarah standing nearby and Diane joining by video call from her hospital room, Mark realized that family wasn't always what you expected it to be. Later that night, after Emma had gone to bed surrounded by her new books and art supplies, Mark walked Sarah to her car. "Thank you for including me today," she said. "Emma wanted you here," Mark replied. Then, after a pause, "So did I." Sarah looked up at him, hope and uncertainty mingling in her eyes. "Where do we go from here?" Mark thought about the ring, still hidden in his dresser drawer. Not for now, maybe not for a long time. But he hadn't returned it either. "I don't know exactly," he said honestly. "But I think we start over. No secrets this time. Just two people getting to know each other for real." "I'd like that," Sarah said softly. As Mark watched her drive away, he felt something he hadn't expected, not the uncomplicated happiness of 6 months ago, but something deeper. A recognition that love, like life, rarely followed a straight path. That sometimes the most painful truths could lead to the most authentic connections. 3 years later, as Mark stood with Sarah under a canopy of autumn leaves, exchanging vows with Emma as their proud witness, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed them had ultimately forced a level of honesty that might otherwise have taken years to achieve. Diane hadn't lived to see the wedding, but her final months had given Emma precious memories and a chance to say goodbye. Her last words to Mark had been, "I sent Sarah to spy on you, but in the end, she was my gift to you both." As Mark kissed his bride, he knew that some truths, even the most painful ones, could eventually lead to healing. That sometimes what shatters everything makes space for something stronger to be built in its place. If you've ever had to rebuild trust or found love in unexpected places, we'd love to hear your story in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the complicated, beautiful mess that is human connection. Remember, it's not the challenges we face that define us, but how we choose to overcome them.